So I'm going to get started here with regard to a view into the future of insurance and really take it from a customer perspective. And I'm going to share with you some of the research that we've been doing that has helped shape our strategy, has helped shape our product strategy, and is shaping some of our customer strategy. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the customer. So a few years ago, we started to do some research around future trends. What were the macro items that were really out there challenging the industry? We saw it around three key things: people, technology, and market boundaries. Market boundaries were really about the dropping of silos, that we were no longer operating across industries in our silo way. So think about the automotive industry. Think about the travel industry. They are now offering insurance as a part of the buying experience. From a technology standpoint, our Chief Product Officer and President of Majesco, Manish Shah, is going to go into a little bit more detail around the technology. But today it's all about the cloud. It's about a number of different things. But the number one item that is really shaping the future of insurance are the customers. And it's a number of different perspectives: demographics, a new set of expectations because they've got experiences with other companies, and it's about their new demands. They live differently. They work differently. They have different types of risk profiles. And with that, we need to be able to respond as an industry. So what I like to say is that we have a window of opportunity. We have a window of opportunity that in the next 2 years, millennials and Gen X are millennials overtake the Gen X and boomers. But what's really important is in the next 6 years, Gen Z and millennials overtake that older generation. And my question to all of you, are you ready for them? 6 years sounds like a long time, but it really is not. Not given the amount of change that we really have to operate in. And if there's one thing that we've learned from InsurTech, the whole InsurTech movement, is that those that have been offering new innovative products and new types of experiences have taken an outside-in perspective. They've taken it from the customer's perspective. And that's the customer of the future that you've got to start thinking about while you're still maintaining and supporting the existing customers. And I'm here to tell you that those customers in their 50s and 60s and 70s are very digitally oriented as well. They're using Uber. They're using Airbnb. They're using Amazon. They're using Netflix. And they want things as easy as those as well. So what we found is that insurers are very much going digital. Top priority in our survey earlier this year, strategic priorities to the industry, are platform technologies, cloud, microservices, APIs, and ecosystems. Those are key elements that make up platforms. And at the top of the list, cloud. 79% of the insurers are planning to move their core to the cloud more rapidly than a lot of people anticipated. And yes, we're still seeing the engine of InsurTech piling in the money and really driving a lot of innovation and a lot of support out there in the industry. It's done a lot of good. It's made us all take stock of what we're doing. It's made us stand up and think about how can we do things differently. And now it's also about how can we partner with them? How can we leverage the things that they're building, the ideas that they have, and find a new way to partner as a part of our ecosystems? But what's missing is leadership. AM Best last fall published a report that they interviewed or surveyed their CEOs. 90% said innovation is absolutely critical to the future, but only 25% are willing to disrupt their current operation. That actually led into some of what they brought out in the whole innovation rating process. Many of you have probably heard about. We'll have a panel at the end of the day with somebody from AM Best and somebody who was a former deputy commissioner at Iowa talking about innovation and the importance of that. So let's go back to the customer, because at the end of the day, it's all about the customer. For 4 years in a row, we've done some consumer research and some small medium business research. I'm just going to give you a few highlights here to kind of drive home the point that the customer, who is your buyer, and you as the sellers have some alignment, but you have a lot of misalignment as well. So first thing, on-demand insurance. Buyers are very much looking at it pretty much across all generational groups, as well as across both consumers and SMB. Fortunately, U.S. sellers are thinking about it. And when I talk about it in terms of this, I talk about it in terms of InsurTechs that we surveyed, as well as insurers that we broke down into leaders, followers, and laggards, based upon their responses to the use of technologies in some of the plans and the actual doing that they're executing on. So we seem to be somewhat in alignment with regard to wanting and following through. However, one of the big misalignments is data, new sources of data that our customers across all generational groups are willing to share with us to be able to make their process and their experience much easier. We're not stepping up to the plate, nor are InsurTech stepping up into the plate. So think about new sources of data rather than our traditional sources of data, coupled with personalizing that experience, but personalizing that product that you're underwriting for them and that you're creating for them. They're willing, and you need to reply. IoT, another area that we'll have a conversation about. There's a lot of interest in it, obviously, with autonomous vehicles, with wearables, with a lot of different devices that are out there. And sellers are experimenting with it. And I'd encourage you to go ahead and experiment. You're going to see in our live POC and our live hackathon, really a use of that in one of the instances that we've got going on. And then we've got new insurance models. Now, I put up social and peer-to-peer, but it's a lot of different insurance models. Our buyers want a different experience. They want a different model to be able to engage with insurers for what their needs are. We're not responding very well to that. Although leaders are not too far behind, neither are InsurTechs. So fundamentally, this is about the speed of innovation. How are you going to disrupt your own business to be able to respond to the expectations of your new consumers and your new business owners out there? And then finally, value-added services. Something that's not traditional as part of a product. Maybe it's roadside assistance. Maybe it's something like discounts for gyms, for healthy living. There's a lot of different kinds of value-added services that can be made available and part of the product. Today, the product is more than just the risk aspects of the product. It has to be about the experience, it has to be about the value-added services, and it has to be about the risk aspect of the product. Those combined really make up what customers are really expecting for the future. And if you're not thinking about this, you need to start thinking, because this is low-hanging fruit. This gives you an opportunity to have much greater interaction with your customers than you ever have had before. At the same time, giving them something that is really simple and probably really cost-effective to be able to provide. But at the same time, you need a billing system that can handle that. You need to be able to bundle that with your products. And I'm here to tell you, probably your legacy systems, and maybe even your new modern systems, might not be able to do that as effectively as you need to. And then finally, channels of interest. Agents aren't going away. I just did a podcast with Chip Accio from Trusted Choice on Friday. We'll be publishing that soon. And they're not going away, but they need to adapt, because there are a lot more channels out there that our customers want to interact with. And they want a multi-channel experience, whether it's through a comparison site, it could be through a marketplace, it could be through their agent or broker, or it could be direct off of your website. They want a multi-channel experience, and it needs to be consistent. If it's not consistent, you're not living up to your brand and your expectations from them. So how are all of the industry responding? Well, first I want to highlight this. This was actually from Boston Consulting Group that is a highlight as to why speed matters. We always used to think that we could be fast followers. We could just wait for those people on the bleeding edge. In today's world, fast followers may not even suffice, and laggards are really behind the curve. Because technology is changing so rapidly, just think about this. 3 years ago, core systems were not viewed as cloud-based solutions. And very few were looking at wanting to put it into cloud because of the fear of a lot of the issues around privacy and around data security. Today, cloud's probably the best option for them, rather than their data centers. And because of that rapid shift, a lot of companies have been taken by surprise. They've done their modernization, they've replaced their legacy systems, but they're in an on-prem world now. How are they going to be able to provide speed to market? How are they going to be able to provide speed to innovation when you're sitting in an on-prem world that might be highly customized? The pace of change is happening so rapidly that being a fast follower may just keep you slightly in the game. A laggard, you're probably not even in the game. So you got to think about speed because speed does matter. And what we're seeing here is that leaders are emerging. In our strategic priorities research, we found that those that understand what's happening in the market, they've got plans in place, but more importantly, they're executing. They're executing on those plans, and they're setting the pace as leaders. They're embracing those technologies around ecosystems and insurtech and platforms. They're embracing the API and platform economy. They're really driving into using of APIs and an API gateway to be able to do things differently. They're creating that business of the future. Over 37% of them are. While they're working really well at optimizing their existing business, they're figuring out that business of the future. And they're looking at digital engagement strategies with their customers. More importantly, they, across the board, 3 to 4 times more than anybody else, are responding at a speed to all of the changes that are happening out in the marketplace. So think about that. If they're responding at 3 to 4 times and you're a fast follower, that gap just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger if you're going at that same speed. So with that, what do I want to wrap up and say as we move into the next session? Customer experience, customer centricity, engagement and ownership is priority number 1. If you don't have that relationship with the customer and are driving a great customer experience, you're not going to survive. 2, business innovation is mandatory. Now with AM Best Innovation Rating, it's going to be part of your rating process, but even before that, to survive, you're going to have to innovate. 3, technological leadership is necessary and essential. No longer can you just think about you as an insurance company. You need to think of yourselves as a technology company. Are you leading with technologies? How are you embracing those technologies? And 5, ecosystems are mandatory. What is your ecosystem? How are you leveraging those? And then finally, at the end of the day, speed to value will be the differentiator for the future. And so if you're not ready for that, you need to start thinking about that now, because in the next 2 to 6 years, your customers are going to become a whole different generation of customers that expect instant gratification and instant demand to what their needs and expectations are, and you need to be able to deliver. So with that, I'm going to quickly turn it over to Manish, and he's going to talk about the future from a technology standpoint. Please welcome Manish Shah, our President and Chief Product Officer.